Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. Everyone, welcome back to Cash Flow Club, the podcast. Today's episode, we're talking about how to decelerate our outbound cash flow or outflow. And basically, decelerate is just a fancy word. It goes with accelerate. The opposite of accelerate is to decelerate or slow down. And this is one of the ways we can maintain control of our cash flow and we can keep our business thriving. And just to be clear, this is not about being deceptive or avoiding creditors or vendors. We're going to be very upfront. We're going to be very honest. And what we're going to do is find ethical, moral, legal ways to slow down the cash going out of our business. So in Cash Flow Club, we actually spend some time on this. We brainstorm, we find new and interesting ways to do this. And really, truly, that's part of why people join us, is to get a little bit more control on cash flow. So we've already talked about how we can increase the size of inbound cash. We can increase the speed of inbound cash through acceleration. We've already talked about how we can reduce the outbound cash. So in this episode, we're going to talk about my 5 favorite ways to decelerate or slow down cash going out. And the first way is really, really simple. If you negotiate with your vendors, you can have conversations with them. You can be upfront with them. You can ask them if they're willing to give you some preferential terms. And by the way, terms might be interest rate reductions. It might be payment terms in terms of how long you get to pay. It might be preferential pricing. There's all kinds of things we can do. But if you don't ask, you don't get. So my favorite little tip I give people is, if you buy things on credit, a lot of credit card companies will give you 30 days to pay the balance in full, and then they don't charge interest. They'll waive the interest. So if you pay your vendor bills through your credit card on the last day it's due to the vendor, and then you pay your credit card in full within 30 days, you can extend and get 30 days often without paying interest just by actively managing your payments. So the good thing is, you need to have good, solid books and records. You need to have an accountant or bookkeeper helping you. You need to be current so that you can take advantage of these deals, because you don't want to do this by accident. You don't want to try and do this with a spreadsheet. Your accounting software needs to help you manage this. And by the way, when you're good, you're prompt, you're timely with your payments and things, vendors are much more likely to offer you credit or terms. And again, we can negotiate with the vendors, but we can also talk about terms. Maybe we get bulk discounts, maybe we get guaranteed delivery dates. Whatever we need to make sure our cash flow is sound, we can negotiate those terms with our vendors. So we want to be in a position where we're confident in our numbers, we're up to date, and we can reach out confidently and say, I'd like a special deal, here's why. Now, the third one is matching your credit type with purchase type. And this is the one I see people making the mistake with the most, because if you buy a short-term item, for example, inventory or something that's going to be turned into cash and it's going to be sold shortly in 30 days or less, you should be buying that with either credit cards or with a business line of credit. Short-term purchase, short-term debt. Now, on the flip side, if you're buying a long-term asset, for example, a truck, you should be borrowing over the life of the truck and making the payments over the life of the truck. Same with buying a building or some property. You'll have a 20, 25-year mortgage and you're paying it off over the life of the building. And what that does, I know a lot of people, I've met many clients that were very debt averse. One client had it as a matter of pride that he paid cash for everything. The problem is that slowed down his growth, but also it kept bleeding his company dry and he'd run out of cash because he was using it to buy long-term assets. So wherever possible, match your credit type with your purchase type. Delaying non-essential payments, again, we're being ethical, we're communicating with our vendors. If we have a choice between do I pay this bill that literally keeps my lights on or brings in something that I can sell and convert to cash or something that's non-essential, always pay your mission critical bills first. So things like electricity, you don't want the lights to go out and shut you down. You need to make sure those are always on time. With your other vendors, be honest with them and say, I'm working on a line of credit, I'm doing this. If you're honest with them, they're usually pretty flexible and they'll give you some leniency. And the final one, I know this is not fun. If you don't need to buy it today, don't buy it. Whether you can buy it on credit or you can buy it for cash, whatever it is, if you don't absolutely need it for your business today, don't buy it. Now, again, that's not fun because we all like to buy the new things and have new things. But if you're in a cash flow crunch, you need to put your cash into those essential payments and you need to keep finding ways to pay to generate new revenue or to increase your revenue or to collect your cash. And sometimes all you need is just to say, okay, for this month, budget cuts, we're not buying anything new, or we have, limits, we're not spending more than this amount. But again, if you have good, timely books and records, you can make these decisions. Ultimately, if you get all of these things sorted, we should be looking at the cash flow for the next 90 days. We should know with certainty what's coming in, what's going out. And once we get this discipline in, then we can start looking at when do we need to make these non-essential purchases. And by the way, one of the biggest mistakes I see in a lot of businesses is when times are tight, they'll either cut their marketing, their sales, or their maintenance budgets. Those are honestly three of the worst things you can cut. In my humble opinion, as long as you've got a good return on investment, your marketing and sales should always be number one priority because they're bringing in the new customers. Obviously, you need to make sure you're doing proper customer service, customer delivery, customer retention, but do not slash marketing and sales just because cash is tight. The other thing is a lot of people, they'll say, well, I don't need to do maintenance. Well, that's a short-term solution, but it can cause long-term problems. If you're not changing oil in your vehicles, if you're not fixing things, over time, things wear out faster when they're not maintained. So try to balance the cash flow needs. And again, find other ways to cut costs, reduce costs, slow down costs, but make sure you're taking care of the essential things in the business and delaying the non-essential. Thank you. I'd love your comments below. If you have a secret or a tip or a trick on how to decelerate your outbound cash, love to hear it in the comments below. Thank you and see you in the next episode. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.